This is the Straight Talk Morning Show. My name is Andre Hill. I'm your host. We have a full panel today. Well, we're missing Morena and the chairman. He's traveling to Mississippi, but we have some heavy topic today. And we're going to introduce the panel. We have a new contributor out of New York, Holly Davis. How are you this morning, Holly?
Hi, Peace Chief. I am great. I am feeling good to be here. How are you?
Hey, feeling supernatural after a long week. So,
Great to
yeah.
hear.
All right, so Mama Kelly is up in Atlanta, the beautiful one. How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I'm waiting for the rain. There is a slight chance of rain, and I am hoping for it. We're in almost a drought state right now. We haven't seen that April showers yet, and everything is so dry, and I'm not sure what's happening in South Georgia, Southeast Georgia, but they say that the forests are on fire. I don't know whether that's natural or man inspired, but we do know that there's always some shenanigans going on behind the curtain. And so I'm just hoping that the rain will come.
It will. The laws of karma are kicking in, and we got to make sure your land don't get torched. So
Yeah.
you're in good standings with the Most High.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely. Also, we got Andre Hill Jr. He's our engineer, Juris Doctor. He's the legal mind of the tribal nation of the United Aboriginal American Republic. What's going on, man?
Everything groovy, like y'all say, supernatural. Yeah, that's what it is.
All right. So, man, it's been a lot going on this week other than Georgia is on fire, tornado coming through. Some of this is supernatural and some of this is inspired by low frequency humans. So, but we're gonna talk about some of the things. I'm always scanning the news channels, and I saw this Israeli soldier. He had an image of Jesus upside down, hitting it with a hammer, and I went like, wow. So he's exposing to our people this fake image, and they don't. The Jews, well, I am calling them the Zionists, but they don't believe in the Christ because they know it was made up. And so I thought that was interesting, and that they even displayed it on the world market. Did you see that, Mama Kelly?
No, I didn't, but I did see something quite similar coming out of one of the European parliaments. And what he was trying to do, he was holding up, the so-called Israeli flag, right? With the blue stripe and the red stripe at the bottom. But instead of that six-pointed star, I won't call it the Star of David, it's because David belonged to us. But instead of that six-pointed star, it was the Nazi, a swastika.
Yes.
And so he was saying, hey, these are the same people. The Nazis and the Ashkenazi.
Yeah.
Okay, don't let that slip. They are called Ashkenazi, Nazi. They are the Nazis, and there's a whole history there we could go through if somebody wants to talk about it one day.
I'm ready anytime. And, that's what also that it inspired me. The same demons that was operating this Nazi party, back during World War II, they have reincarnated and they haven't learned their lesson yet. And they're back in power in the government here in the United States and Israel and a few other places in Europe. So, and they're doing exactly what they were programmed to do. In our book, Lucifer's Revenge, we name all of the different demons that that got kicked out, or I'm not going to say kicked out of heaven, but lost this war in another solar system, and they were exiled to a desolate planet, and they had several thousand years to regroup, and they came to Earth to raise havoc again. And these are the same guys over and over again, and they're going to continue to do this until we say, okay, we don't want to play along with this anymore. Hey man, there's a video, that first video, it kind of tuned up. It gives you some kind of insight on how this works. You've seen it in the vampire movies. It says, this is one of the Caucasian guy. It says, the vampires, they cannot come in your house unless you invite them in. And so we're in that same situation. These demons are going to keep reincarnating. They're going to keep raising Hector, enslaving, murdering, raping you, your children, and everybody else. Go ahead. And this guy, you know, he gave a realistic view of how the universe works in terms of positive thinking, manifestation, and removing demons from your planet. Go ahead, man.
From the cabal itself is that they have to work within something they call the rules. And this is very, very important. The rules are a body of spiritual principles that they must follow in order to be allowed to exist. Now, what do I mean by allowed to exist? I mean that they are aware that there are benevolent forces that will prevent them from achieving their goals unless we give them permission to enslave us. Ultimately, the universe is intelligent, alive, and conscious, and it is benevolent. It is a benevolent consciousness. That consciousness does not allow the negative to succeed unless it is invited.
David Wilcock, y'all. Now, I'm going to provide a different scenario than many are talking about. Let's talk about it. So with the current age that we are in, with technology being prevalent, not one person was able to get any video footage. There were no pictures, there were no body cams on the police officers. That's one thing that provides a little skepticism for me. Now, I've always been a huge fan of David Wilcock, from the ancient alien days on the Gaia channel to his YouTube lives. I always followed him, and I always loved, the information that he provided. Now, one of the things he always talked about was that there were malevolent forces that were here that were working against us, and that there were also benevolent forces that were working for us. Listen, we know very well who runs the media. They're going to give us the narrative that they want us to run with.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little taste of that. You can look that YouTube video up. We'll provide it for you. And so this is a rule of the universe over and over again. I tell people every civilization in the universe has to go through what we're going through right now. It's just a required course. The demons are released on your planet, and the only way you're going to defeat them is come together as one. Hey, Mama Kelly, give me your take on that.
Well, you know that David Wilcox, whom I have followed for years and years, not on all of his videos. I do have friends who, watch his Sunday thing, but I generally don't. But I know him, and I've followed him for many, many years, because he does give correct information, or should I say, information on the metaphysical, the unknown, and especially extraterrestrials. Well, they got to him a few days ago. They said he committed suicide. And for years and years and years, he's been in hiding. He went to the Colorado mountains to go in hiding. But of course, they always know where you are. And now he has been so-called, they said he committed suicide, but the policemen who witnessed it, none of them had body cams. So we don't know what happened. But David Wilcox always said, I am not suicidal. If you heard that I suicided myself, it's not true. So here's another one, and I believe it's because we're so close to disclosure. And, little by little, disclosure is happening. All of you have also written about the disclosure, and of course, I wrote about the global transformation, which also includes disclosure. The fact that we're not here by ourselves. Those who are running the show are extraterrestrial aliens, demons, really, and that, we still got to stay on course. Just like in the movie Sinners, you remember that the vampire said, "We want your songs. We want your stories." Did y'all get that? That's
Yeah.
what they were after. Isn't that the industry that steals everything from us?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Holly. So are there benevolent beings in the universe, and do some of us exist here on the physical plane?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The things that are going on could not be done by humans. It will have to be something extraterrestrial. That is one. Yes, and yes, they are here in a physical form. I see them sometimes, the blacked out eyes and stuff like that, because I live in between both worlds. And the thing about welcoming, see, I don't even have a welcome mat. Okay. I don't allow demons inside of my home as well. And your mind in a physical form, your mind is your welcome mat. So when you allow them to control you and to tell you what to do, you're welcoming in that energy. That's what you're doing. You're being controlled, and you're being conditioned. This is why you're so compliant. Let's change that compliance into consciousness, and then we'll be much better off. But they're definitely out here.
All right. Hey, Joe, you got something to add to that?
Yeah. And we wrote about this in the book Lucifer's Revenge. And for whatever it's worth, just to give the audience some background on how me and my father even got the downloads to write this book. I don't know where he got the prompt from the Most High, but I'll tell you how he came to me. This was 2023, the end of 2023. I probably lost about $500,000 worth of opportunity of construction and real estate projects, right? And so I wasn't nowhere near in the mind state of writing about nothing metaphysical. I was just trying to recoup my money, right? And I told Dad straight up, I said, look, he said, hey man, I just want you to write a chapter about Lilith. I was like, okay. I said, okay. I said, but I ain't gonna be able to have a lot of, contribution with this. Probably gonna only be able to contribute about 10% of my time right now to this. Long story, I said that was my immediate reaction, but long story short, I ended up writing half the book with it, right? It's because the downloads started coming in real heavy, based on a lot of things that are already new from an astrological perspective. When I say astrological, we're not talking about what people think the mysterious science of astrology is, because it's not mysterious. Once you figure it out, it's a very well orchestrated mathematical system of the universe. It ain't nothing mysterious or spooky about it. With that being said, we can use cosmology and astrology to map let's say the interdimensional and time frame that these demons are allowed to operate too. Meaning they have a window of frequency that they can operate in. It's like they know when their time starts, they know when their time is ending. Meaning they know when their season is up. Meaning they know that the planet itself and everybody who's a part of the planet, everybody that's organic, we follow, the frequencies of the universe. And once we start going into a season of higher vibration, which is inevitable, which is cyclical, which is going to happen anyway, they have to make a decision. Let's say, okay, so they're going to vibrate out of our reach anytime now. We're naturally going to vibrate outside of demons, extraterrestrials, whoever's reach. Because again, like your boy said, Wilcox said, there's a natural benevolent frequency in the universe that we all, interface with. And so those demons, those forces that choose to operate with that negative energy, they only got so long of a window to interact with us at a lower vibration, right? So right now, we heading out of that winter season of a vibration. They know if they don't convince enough of us to stick with this low vibration, that means they ain't gonna have no food once we vibrate outside of their reach. That's scary to them. That's frightening to them. In other words, think about them having to go into hibernation, but they ain't got enough food for them to last them that hibernation. I mean, they ain't gonna die. They just have to suffer through it. That's even worse than dying to them. Let me say that one more time. They know that they don't, ain't no such thing as death for real, right? So they know they'll have to suffer through a long hibernation until they find somebody else to feed off of. That's scary to them. I don't know if everybody on the panel seen what's the movie called? The Passions of Christ. I remember that movie.
I
And
remember I didn't see
Yeah, I
it.
remember. I didn't see it though.
yeah, it was one interesting scene at the end of the movie that was, I think, most reflective of what these entities are facing. The devil was in the movie. He was this little pale, malnutrition looking character, right? And he was kind of sneaking behind, all the crevices, and just doing his will from behind the scene. Long story short, at the end of the movie, he got cast into the void, not into the lake of fire, nothing like that. He got cast into nothingness. And that was his biggest fear because he knew he couldn't die. So just being cast into a place of nothingness and had to exist there was worse than death. That's what they face. That's how desperate they are. So they need to convince as many of us as possible to go along with that narrative so they can have somebody to entertain them while they go through. Now imagine that. Imagine you being, you agreeing to entertain them in their time of desperation. I don't think we want to do that. I'll land that plane right there. I know that was a long spill.
Well, so we have receipts. This is the awakening process. A lot of people are getting the downloads. A lot of people don't understand what these downloads mean, but this show is designed to help interpret them for you. And we're gonna keep it moving. So before we get on into it, because Holly, you got something very interesting, and I know Mama Kelly is gonna bring it all in and line it up. So I stated on the promo yesterday that they got this poly market thing where you can, they got the casinos. You can bet on anything. You can bet on how many steps somebody's going to take to get to the plane or whatever. But anyway, one of Trump's people who's had sensitive information on the invasion of Venezuela. He knew there was going to be invasion, knew what the chances are of them succeeded. So he went on the poly market, and I think he posted like $32,000. And he won close to 500, half a million. And so these are the things that a lot of people say, man, I need to get on that. Get it. If you spend your time getting involved in that, versus building a new utopia for your children, your grandchildren, and children to come, you're going to be lost right along with these demons. So I wanted to also, just to give you a feel, I ran across one more video this morning. I thought it was odd. And it just showed up. I fell asleep, woke up, and this video was playing. It's 111 forbidden inventions that were erased from history, which includes everything from hydrogen fuel cells. It's a simple fuel cell. It's a component that heats up the water, and one side turns into hydrogen, and the other side is exhaust of water, whatever the remainder of the water. And so we don't need gasoline. I mean, and one of the other inventions, they made cars with hemp.
Mhm.
With hemp. And if you hit it, it's not going to be damaged. So when you go to our book, Lucifer's Revenge, it lists all the demons. One of them is the demon of industry. One of Lucifer's of the low frequency. And that was his or her job, was to come up with different ways of enslaving a species. We are in a slavery system in the Caucasian, you too, and you know it. So one of the things and what really, it angers me every time I see that they had the cure for cancer a long time ago, and yet they experimented on our people. And if you lost a family member, I did. I lost my mother. She was 51, and here I am at 73. I got a lot of life left, but my mother was snuffed out at 51 because of that crap with this medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry to kill our people. So I'm gonna say this to you. Go check that video out, and we're gonna resurrect all of that technology. But now here's the deal. If you try to take that technology and say, I'm gonna get rich, it ain't gonna work. If you bring the technology to our Aboriginal nation or any other nation operating with our philosophy, we will show you how to employ or develop this technology, and you will be safe. So go ahead and check that video out, 101 Forbidden Inventions that were erased from history. Some of the things they did was hideous to suppress and stop this technology. We will be operating on this planet without all these bills, without enslaving, the high rent, all of that. All of that was done by these demons that were defeated. And they came to earth for one reason, to enslave you and cause chaos. So we got one more video before we bring Holly on. And we're giving you all the receipts. We're not just saying, these are different point of views. And you got that one, man? We're not just saying these things, to hear ourselves talk. These, for those that are still sleeping or partially asleep, and you need something to wake up to, we will wake you up. Go ahead and hit that.
Up to foreign imports. Nigeria finally has a refinery, Africa's largest, built by a Nigerian, supplying Nigeria's fuel for the first time in decades, sending jet fuel to Europe during a global energy crisis. And the World Bank's response is to tell Nigeria to let foreign importers back in to compete with it. They like to call it restoring competition, but let's call it what it actually is. You see, the moment that Africa starts winning, the West finds a way to change the rules. Where was the World Bank when Shell was poisoning the Niger Delta? Between 1976 and 2001, there were over 6,800 oil spills in Nigeria's Niger Delta. European oil companies contaminated groundwater at levels 900 times above WHO safety limits. A 2023 report described it as an environmental genocide. Oil spills in the Delta are connected to 16,000 neonatal deaths every year. Life expectancy dropped to just 41 years. The World Bank issued no emergency reports, imposed no conditions on European governments. They didn't say a word. But the moment a Nigerian builds a refinery that threatens European import dominance, they publish a report. Then they quietly take it down a couple days after Dangote pushes back. Because they knew exactly what they were doing, and then they got caught. The president of the World Bank has always been an American. The managing director of the IMF has always been European. A British citizen's vote in the IMF is worth 23 times more than a Nigerian's vote. These are not neutral institutions. They were designed under colonialism, and they remain colonial in character. Their conditions are reserved exclusively for Africa. For the nations that watched Thomas Sankara get assassinated for rejecting the IMF, that watched Patrice Lumumba get murdered for wanting to keep Congo's wealth in Congolese hands. The consequences of saying no have never been economic. They have always been existential. Every nation has a sovereign right to determine what it does with its own natural resources. No institution controlled by nations that didn't just colonize Africa, but systematically genocided its people, looted its resources, and built entire economies on African blood and labor have any moral authority over a single grain of African soil. The IMF and the World Bank are not Africa's partners. They are Africa's obstacles. And it's long past time that African nations treat them that way. And if you didn't know, now you know. The World Bank.
Hey, Mama Kelly, you traveled all over Africa. Is that making sense what she's saying?
I remember the author in Nigeria, Soyinka. He is the one who they actually gave him was it a Pulitzer Prize or a Nobel Prize? I can't remember. But he's an author and he's written some very beautiful books. He exposed what they were doing down there in the Delta at that time. This was years and years and years ago. And you know, I spent quite a lot of time, well, not a lot, but months and months in Nigeria, living with Nigerian people, actually relatives. And, you know, I mean, Soyinka, they gave him a prize and all that, but they paid no attention to what he was saying. And he was an environmentalist saying that, look, you're killing my people. Now, I don't know if you know this, but one of the biggest oil tankers coming out of Nigeria is called the Condoleezza. Y'all know who she is?
Oh, yeah.
I think this is the one we're talking about who are still well, those like her, who are still helping the demons. Are we right about that?
Yes,
One of
absolutely.
the biggest oil tankers, the Condoleezza. Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Hey, Junior, you got something you want to weigh in on that? Because you got involved in the environmental thing, right?
Yeah. You know, when we think about it from a tactical and a warfare perspective, all of the quote unquote racism is environmental first, because you know they have to attack your ecosystem because they know us as melanated people worldwide. They know we are part of the ecosystem. They know how to disrupt that, and they can disrupt our interface and flow of life. And so now that's a big discussion to get into as far as particularly Africa's. We ain't gonna talk about ours in the Americas, but our melanated cousins in Africa, our family in Africa, and their particular way of letting demons in. They got a way of doing that. You know what I'm saying? Long story short, as far as because they have a way of maintaining leadership image of themselves, but very bought and paid for leadership. Right. And so is over there is much more difficult to see through the veil of why is African countries all over the continent maintaining some level of good infrastructure, but a good portion of their neighborhoods, so forth and so on, are relatively dilapidated based on the leadership of the countries. And again, it's a big conversation to get into, because when we think about Africans' relationship with Europeans, just based on proximity, right? It's a long history. It goes back about a good, let's say, longer than 2,500, years. But that would about 2,500 years was a good amount of where all of the dysfunction came in. But yeah, Africa, they got a particular fight on their hands of dealing with European influence. Our brother Traore, everybody's looking at Ibrahim Traore right now with the Sahel Alliance and how he's dealing with the IMF. He just got some loans from him too. He just got some loans from him too. Now we assuming, we hoping, we sitting back saying, "Hey, bro, we hope you know what you're doing. It doesn't look good on the surface, but we hope you're playing chess well. We hope you're playing chess well." But again, just like we talking about, the invitation is always what they offer first. We think, when we look at our history, there was never really much. Well, I ain't gonna say never. Very rarely was it a time when they pulled up on us and beat us in hand-to-hand combat. That ain't how it went down.
Yeah, no.
Usually infiltration, how it happened. They ain't pull up on us on our own land and beat us up. That's not how that went down. They may have tried to write the story like that, but that's not how it went down. It's usually infiltration, and they don't care what it takes to do the infiltrating. They'll sell us their mama, their daughters, their little cousins. They didn't care what it looked like. They'll do whatever it takes to infiltrate. But when we thinking about, as we move forward in Africa, as we move forward as melanated people in the Americas, and we begin to build our own infrastructure, looking out for those invitations, because they will be making them, right? They will be making them. And I think we have to really just get in the mind state of, like you said, Pops, rebuilding, restructuring the concept of governing our own utopia. I'm saying this as a chief jurist. It's like I spend a lot of time interpreting already in set precedent laws that we have to deal with, only to get tired of having to deal with it. I'm like, I don't want to interpret these bullshit no more, and tell y'all how to jump over hoops and go under and basically how to wiggle your way through because it's all based on a bunch of scam. When it can, when our laws can be very easily, our governing system could very easily be set on universal and natural law, and for the most part, the contract law from there would be very, just straightforward and absolute, and it'd be void of all of that corruption. But I'll land that plane right there.
Hey, well, that sounds like you covered the base on that one.
Right.
Holly, first of all, we're glad to have you join the team, and also glad you're in the tribe. To have women like you and Mama Kelly is a blessing for the Aboriginal people all over the world. On so many occasions, our women have been so disenfranchised with the men protecting them, so they've had to resort to other means that's survival basis, because we don't have a good track record of defending you and protecting you and building for you. So, just wanted to reassert that when we want to embrace you with our spiritual power, so they don't try to manipulate you off. I know you're a warrior of the first rate. Oh, Holly, I told, she has the same birth coordinates as my favorite, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. And I was a wide receiver when I was in high school and college. And I patterned my game after this. That Sagittarius horse, Paul Warfield, he was one of the greatest. So I told Holly, I said, hey, you are Paul Warfield. I know we're going to throw you the ball all the time. We got a touchdown. Well, go ahead, Holly, tell us what's going on in New York and what's going on with our babies being snatched.
Okay, yes. Well, in New York, first of all, I want to talk about the trafficking. Okay, now they have, our melanated people doing the transparencies, dirty work. You know what I'm saying? Where, they set you up, and they want to take our children because, you know why? Because they are the new star seeds that are coming in. So they're real big on that. And I seen this video of this woman. She was in the middle of labor, and they wanted to give her an emergency. No, she was in the middle of labor. She came into the hospital for complications, and they wanted to give her an emergency C-section, but she said she did not need that. So they had a judge come on. I want to find that video when I will post it to the group later. But he came on the screen and said, "Yes, you have to do this. they wanted to make her get an emergency C-section, and that wasn't supposed to be the case. You can never do that, and they try to make that a law. And just like the video I showed you earlier about they want the family not to be in there because they want to be able to do what they want to do with these children. Like they're being done for sacrificial reasons.
Mhm.
They really are. This is what the demon does. They like young children because of their blood, the adrenaline, and this is what keeps them young and what keeps them going. And there's a lot to that story, but our young children are being taken, and it's mostly by the melanated people, and that's a problem. And it's being done by melanated women at that.
Mm.
So that's the thing I wanted to speak on because that is very important. And this is when I was talking about conditioning, that's what I'm talking about. Like it's like our people could just be bought off with money. That this money that doesn't even exist.
Right.
Like where are your morals? Where are your principles? Where are your values? Everything is about money and materialistic aspects, and no one is paying attention to the real picture. So you rather sit up there and take someone's child over monitor. What do you think is going to happen to you? Because there's karma. Okay, just like these demons are getting their karma now. This is our time. You will get your karma, so you're not even going to be able to spend that money you are promised. And I really need women like me and Mama Callie to really step up and really speak out about what's going on because a lot of that is not happening.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to touch on that with that part of them taking our children, whether you're about to give birth or where you're being set up somewhere and things are like this are happening. Even in the ACS system,
Mhm.
where they want to take your children out your home because they claim you're not being a fit parent. You don't have a bed for your child to sleep in, so they want to take your child away. Yeah, they claim you don't have the proper food in your house. It'll be something really ridiculous, but then they'll sit up there and put it into law to where it'll make it justifiable, and it's really not. And if you're ignorant or if you're not, knowledgeable on your rights and the laws, that can happen to you. So I need y'all to like really speak up. Now, if you see something, say something type of thing. And that's what I wanted to say.
Mama Kelly.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize what she's saying. She's absolutely right. Uh, but this has been happening since they got here.
Mhm.
But it's in our face now, and we are not looking at it. We don't want to see as a people. Now, some of us are looking, and I know that Holly, your sister, you are living in New York,
That's right.
one of the greatest drug, human organ trafficking right there. And especially in Brooklyn, where you have those people that have they call them horror stocks,
Mm. Yep.
dressed all in black and everything. They have been caught. They have been caught
Uh-huh.
coming out of their cellars through the manholes
Yep.
in
Them
the
tunnels.
streets. You remember that?
Yep. I remember.
Crown Heights. You remember that? Adjacent to a synagogue.
Yes.
They
That's how
were
they hide
caught,
themselves.
and their underground tunnels had, children's toys, dolls, bloody mattresses, and everything. But what happened? The story disappeared.
Mhm.
Yes, it did.
The story disappeared, and then people forgot. People don't want to know. Because as I explained when we were before the program started, you know, they don't want to know, because if they know, then they have to do something.
And that's too
Well,
much work for them.
you know, there are so, of course, even Hakeem Jeffries up there, he's doing the dirtiest work, dirtiest work, by funding the others to be under the paws of the demons. He's funding them from that source, from the small hats. He's funding those people that we think actually work for us in Congress. No, they don't.
Absolutely not.
And so this trafficking of our children, the trafficking of organs, where they get the organs from, the trafficking of drugs, which of course has gotten their people as well, but they okay with that as long as the elites are okay.
Mm-hmm.
These Europeans, the colonizers, squatters, they getting the message, a few of them. But then you've got those who are the Christian Zionists. I don't know what happened to their head. I really don't. I really don't. Of course, we know that the Christ that they follow is really Lucifer. The Catholic Church told you that.
Right.
You don't believe them? Why would they name their observatory in, I think it's in Arizona? It's called Lucifer.
And that's the thing. They put these things right in our face, and it's like you turn the other way. They're telling you this.
They have to.
They have
See,
to.
because their belief is that, that by telling us, they are absolved from the karmic debt. So
But it's
that's why
working.
the movies.
All in the movies. Actually, every single one. And Disney is crazy. They're the biggest one because and Disney focuses on our children. There's so many signs
Absolutely.
and symbols in these movies, and you're not seeing it. You know why? Because you're conditioned. You're conditioned
Yes.
not to. But even though it's in your face, you still can't see it.
Hey, our adults too. Not
Yes.
just our children.
Oh no, I mean like they put
Oh.
it in the children's movies to try to distract you from the fact that they're actually telling you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, all of our movies tell us everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, both of you hit on the main topic, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. And I'm always appealing to our Aboriginal, meaning Caucatone melanated people, you elders. Ooh, you can overcome the brainwashing. They've demonstrated to you that if you're going to church, that Christ was a image created. We explain it in the book Lucifer's Revenge, how it was created, how it took them 500 years to come up with the image and the psychology of how to control and manipulate you and enslave you. But these demons are, they're doing their job and they're doing it very well, And so as we constantly remind you, let's wake up and let's take charge of our families. We have a tribal nation. You can come in and join the nation. I almost don't want to sound like how the churches do it. Say, come join, come on down and join church. But this is the time. And if you continue to fall for this, listen, there was a movie. I know I'm always doing movies. Some time ago, and I talked about this, the Body Snatchers. I'm gonna make this very clear. Now, I'm gonna go to the end of the movie. when these entities snatch these bodies, they end up speaking to this extraterrestrial image who was copper tone. And that blew me away because this movie was old. All right, and so to my Caucasian people, you know, you bought into this system because you know you cannot compete on a level playing field with the melanated people. The original design, you was designed after the fact. And this is why your children are rejecting you, because these souls are coming back and they're rebellious and they're resentful, you know. So you should get involved in you creating systems where you underpin the melanated Aboriginal people. You can't do this, but you can divert those resources to our nation. We got the nations. I just heard about one up in South Carolina, you know, and get behind some true. You know what true benevolent souls are. Invest your money in that, because if not, you think it was bad when you reincarnated into these Caucasian bodies. The next time it's going to be worse. Well, anyway, I'm gonna leave that. Mom Kelly, I know I didn't get a chance to get with you on your topic of discussion today. You had a particular point you want to bring up?
What particular topic or?
Whichever one you want.
You know, it's so important that we become aware of, you know, what my sister was just speaking on. You know, I mean, this is real. They take our children all the time at whatever reason, mostly no reason. And they are aided and abetted by these, so many of our sisters who work in government jobs, crying that 300,000 of our women lost their jobs. Well, we don't need our women out there handing our children over to social services and to what do they call it, the detention centers. We don't need our women out there doing that, and that's what they were doing. We don't need them sitting on these magistrate courts and 13th Amendment. I mean, our women are in the positions of assisting. And that's the reason why they put the women there. And these women are not conscious of what they're doing because they have been indoctrinated, and they belong to these secret societies that serve those elite families. They serve them. But see, these people who get into these sororities, fraternity, and Masonic orders, they don't find that out until they get to 33rd, 32nd, 33rd degree, which most of them never do. Okay, so I would encourage our women who have lost their jobs to try to look at who they are and what system we are living in. They don't know. I know they don't know. They don't know. And many of them still go to the church, or they belong to the church, or when they're looking for a vote, they go to the church. Okay? There is no government. I say it every time I get a chance. The United States Corporation, incorporated 1871 by the Catholic Church, the Vatican, that has been dissolved. It was bankrupted and it is in liquidation right now. That's why you see all of the systems falling. Of course, the last system to fall is, of course, the system of that they hold everybody in, and that's the financial system. And so, I mean, the banksters are still out there printing useless money. It's not money. It ain't nothing but a little piece of paper. Okay? And so really, we have nothing that is real to fight against, because the United States Inc. does not exist anymore. You hear them talking about going back to the Republic. Well, if it were going back to the Republic, which we as a people, actually, they copied our Constitution of the Iroquois Nation, which is matrilineal, you know, they copied that. That's what the U.S. Constitution is. It's a copy of, or the system, a copied system from the Iroquois Nation. Okay? So that, even that, they stole it. And it's like, you know, now the Republic, we're supposed to be going back to the Republic. Well, they're fighting tooth and nail, because they cannot have that money printing machine going in a republic. Now, we have been offered a way out, but those who now control America's government, which is Israel, let's be real. In fact, I've seen Donald Trump pull the chair back at the head of the table for Benjamin Netanyahu.
Missed that.
I've seen that. And Benjamin Netanyahu sitting at the head of the table. Okay, what does that say?
He's a psychotic maniac.
All of them are. If you support it. Now, we got some bad sisters out here, mostly on the internet, who are teaching. And they all have their nooks. I mean, you know what they're good at. And I have the deepest respect for so many of them. In fact, I'm thinking in terms of how we can pull all those sisters together. But see, you know, you don't always have all of the information. Sometimes you're only given a piece, and that's what you're good at. So you do that. Okay? And sometimes you don't really know about something else. And so many of us are deceived by religion. And so we could have a sister who's really doing good work over here, but she's still caught up in religion. You know, nothing wrong. In fact, we must embrace our spirituality. We must embrace our move into a higher consciousness. We must embrace that and move forward. Okay? But religion is only there to enslave you. Every one of them. Every one of them. And you can even find religious leaders who have been put before us and touted as great religious, spiritual people. And now they're on the Epstein list.
Mhm.
Dalai Lama?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that. What was that woman in India? What was her name? Mother Teresa. She was trafficking children. Did y'all know that?
See, I'm just now hearing about that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't.
Wow.
Mother Teresa. You know, Deepak Chopra, that disturbed a whole lot of our people. You know, Deepak Chopra on the TV all the time, talking about, oh, this great dog. Mm-hmm. And we ain't gonna start talking about them evangelical preachers. or those Baptist preachers. We leave that up to Drewski. Y'all know Drewski? If you don't know Drew,
Yes,
if you don't know Drewski, go look. I think he's on. Oh, maybe
YouTube.
he's on what?
I believe YouTube.
Oh, he's on YouTube. Okay, he's a comedian.
Yes, my daughters watch them. Watch him
Oh,
because I
well,
have young women
along with
daughters.
me. I don't
Yes,
like all of his stuff, but some of his stuff is brilliant.
yes, because he tells some of the truth.
Hey, he's telling the truth.
Yes,
He's mocking these so-called leaders, these holy ones. Yep, he's mocking them, showing us exactly who they are. Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna pass the baton off to my son. So you know, to you Caucasian people, that if you want to start correcting your karma, I've said this before. You can send some of those resources. Go to uaarnation.org to some of those melanated people that don't have a way out, but you don't want to contribute. Go give the money to your cousin. Have them to contribute. Send a check, money order to uaarnation.org, because we are immediately building infrastructure on tribal land. We're going to be, Mama Kelly's got land. We're going to renovate, add infrastructure to it to start housing our people. You got to separate out of this matrix, because if you still sit next to them, you see these tornadoes and fires and all that stuff coming. You're gonna go down with them. And two, you know, so all of you people in your sororities and fraternities or these secret societies, you know, start backing out. You know, there's still a clause of under duress. But I'm gonna let my son explain to you how to get involved and sign up, because your tribal correction or your personal what is it called, man?
Status correction.
Status correction is critical, because just like the stock market used our birth certificates to go exchange on the stock market, and they didn't cut us any checks. In this system, you are vested as an individual. So when you join our movement, and what you're joining is your own movement of coming out of this system that's run by these Caucasian males. And these brothers, you know, they got some severe mental problems and insecurities, and they will do anything to stay in position of power, you know, anything. So the best medicine for them is to separate and back up from them. Well, go ahead, man. Tell us how to get involved.
Yeah. First and foremost, let me say this too, because you mentioned donating to our tribe. Family, we know we've seen a lot of organizations and groups that have tried to take on this mantle of rebuilding infrastructure for our people, only to run off and scam with the money. Our tribal government, we say this, we'll show you better than we can tell you. You know, our only objective is to build community for the sake of incubation and build an infrastructure so that our children can expand into the future. That's our only goal, right? So if you find it in your, you know, in your intention and or your heart to donate to us, you ain't just got to donate and then just hope for the best. We busy over here, but we do interact. Right? So you can reach out to us, you know, and get a good understanding of what we got going on with our plans of building. I would recommend to everybody, especially in these larger metropolitan cities, we were thinking about what was the long-term plan with gentrification, the trafficking. That's what it was. That's what it is. Transhumanism and the underpinning the field for transhumanism is going to be trafficking, especially children. This is just to cut it very straight. So your proximity in these larger cities to the gentrification and the underground trafficking, just like Pop said, you don't want to be in proximity to that once all of the disasters start happening. Well, let's say when the karmic debt comes down on these metropolitan areas. So what's the plan? Separate, kind of get out of the way of that, right? So we've always looking for land in the outer suburbs and or the rural, so we can build our own. And family, look, we ain't never not been building. we ain't new to that. I don't want y'all to be scared of building. That's the thing. Listen, the whole reason we have a tribal government now is because I worked with a lot of groups, including other tribes. I asked them about, okay, what's the plan on getting some land? Not from a pompous perspective, but just to get a good understanding on what is your plan for building infrastructure, not to hear too much. So we said, all right, well, you know what, we'll do it ourselves. That's what our tribe, that's our primary thing, because we need to build. I mean, men, brothers, we got the capability. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, though, we got some sisters in the tribe. I told them how we can do this. They was like, I'll be there. So we even got sisters in the tribe that's willing to do it. My point is, brothers, if you got, first and foremost, if you got, true and good intentions. In other words, don't come over here with that bullshit if you got any relation to that, that capitalistic system which encourages you to do some demonic stuff. If you still hung up on that and hung up on, capitalism as your primary goal of life, all right, we'll stay over there. But if you want to build for your family and the future generations, that's what we're doing over here. That's what we're doing over here. So you can go to uaarnation.org. If you want to donate, that's fine. There's a donation page there. But if you want to truly get involved, you want to be a national of our tribal government, go to the nationality page, read the instructions. They're very clear. All right, you'll get a tribal screener first, which is a genealogy search and genealogy certificate. That's primarily for identifying your own lineage and proving your Aboriginal American heritage and lineage for yourself primarily, right? As an individual, it's like it proves your ethnicity as an Aboriginal American, right? And now, once we know that you're Aboriginal American, but for the most part, we can look at you and tell, for the most part. But go ahead and get the genealogy certificate for you and yourself and your family. But after you have that, you can go through the nationality process. But here's the thing, I'm gonna say this unapologetically. We can only nationalize us. Can't nationalize nobody else. We have to follow, or we're going to follow, the concept of jus soli and jus sanguinis, meaning you got to be born of the bloodline and born of the Americas. Born of the bloodline, born of the Americas, because we got to be us. Right. I can nationalize you then. Okay. Get involved. Do that, you get involved. We probably got the most affordable nationalization packet out of any tribe that you're gonna get with. We don't make the nationalization process about the money. That's not our main GDP. The administrative part is not our main GDP. Our main GDP is going to be the building of the infrastructure. That's what we much rather you get your family straight first and get your status correction together so that you can put yourself into position to where you can truly collaborate with us. Then we get some way bigger resources. Y'all feel me? We get way bigger resources once you're straight. So again, just go to uaarnation.org, go to the nationality page, follow the instructions, and you're going to eventually meet me, because we don't just take your money and then we holler at you. Now you eventually meet me. We'll do an orientation, and I'll have a good conversation with you, and then you'll meet people like Sister Holly as well. You'll meet the rest of the people in the tribe, and what you're going to find is you got a whole tribe full of like-minded and like-spirited people from all over the states, and some in Canada, and some in the islands, but like-minded and spirited people of Aboriginal American descent. That's who you're going to meet. Everybody's on the concept of, on the mind frame of building. That's what you're going to meet. All right. So I'll land it right there.
All right, so we a little over, but closing statements. Holly, you have a closing statement of what's going on in New York, or what's your next move?
Well, my next move is I really want to speak to the higher ups. Once I get my my certification and everything, I really want to go and I want to speak to the people in the embassy and things like that, because we need to be heard. And to say what Chief Andre said, when you do come over here, please don't come with the crabs in the barrel mentality. We're not looking for that. We're all about unity here. Okay, I need more of the men to step up. If you're a man joining, please step up. Ideas, suggestions, donations. You know, before you pay that parking ticket, before you pay for that pack of cigarettes, you can donate to, you know, your future, your children's future, your grandchildren's future. So, you know, and I just wanted to say that. But yes, we're all about unity here.
Absolutely. Hey, Mama Kelly, you got what are your closing statements?
Unity, 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 unity.
Absolutely.
Dude.
Well, we got listen to all you people, the naysayers or whatever. We got some strong sisters joining the group, and guess what that means? The war is won. But we need more of you to come join in at the collective. We need leverage. The numbers give us leverage to negotiate on a global stage.
For sure.
Hey man, go ahead and close us out.
All right, family. This has been the Straight Talk Show. As always, we love y'all. And we'll see y'all next week. Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace out.